Hi, it's Chris. From cursed objects to cursed finds, to items that were clearly taken away to prevent more harm from being done, join us as we reveal 8 of the most dreadful curses ever. Number 8. Basano Vase. Curses can come in many forms, but most of the time they seem to be stuck in some sort of object, causing havoc to those who possess them, including a wedding gift for a bride in northern Italy. The item was a vase made in the 15th century and was carved from pure silver. It was meant to be a rather luxurious wedding gift. However, on the bride's wedding night, she died. What's more, before passing on, she was found on the ground clutching the vase and promising to kill the person who took her life. Yikes, what the heck happened here? Not something you'd expect to hear from a woman on her wedding night. After her death, the bride's family got the vase and it was passed from member to member, but every single one of them met their death under unusual circumstances. So feared was this curse that the vase was buried until 1988 when it was rediscovered. When it was unearthed, there was apparently a note that said, "Beware, this vase brings death." The person who found it sold it to a pharmacist, who then died 3 months later. That man's family sold it to a surgeon who also died, this time 2 months later, and only at age 37. An archaeologist was next, and 3 months after he purchased the vase, a weird infection took his life. Weirdly, the police eventually got a hold of it and tried to donate it to a museum, but each one knew of the curse and thus refused to take it. As for where the vase is now, no one really knows. But it's believed that the police buried it once again, and so far, it has remained unfound, potentially ending the curse. Number 7. James Dean's Porsche 550 Spyder. There are many tales of celebrities dying strange or unusual deaths, and when it came to movie icon James Dean, his death was one that lingered because of the car he died in. Dean was a big fan of cars, and he had a Porsche 356 while filming the legendary movie Rebel Without a Cause, but decided to upgrade his ride to a Porsche 550 Spyder. A very nice ride, as many car people will tell you. He even went and customized it to further make it his own. After getting the car, Dean had lunch with Alec Guinness, who you might know as the original Obi-Wan Kenobi. When Dean had Guinness look at the car, Guinness said to Dean that if he continued to drive that car, it would kill him in a week. 7 days later, Dean was killed in a car accident while driving that Spyder. Sadly, though, the curse wasn't ended with Dean's death. In many ways, it was just starting. After the wreck, George Barris bought back the car in hopes of restoring it, or at least selling it off for parts. A week after doing so, the car fell off the trailer it was on and broke a man's leg. Barris then started to sell off parts of the car to other people, including Troy McHenry and William Estrid. During a race in the cars that had the parts, McHenry hit a tree and died, while William lost control of his car and rolled, causing him severe injuries. Barris tried to get rid of the car, but Highway Patrol thought of this as a good way to show off the dangers of car accidents and convinced him to give it to some exhibits. The first exhibit failed, and the garage that housed the car mysteriously burned down, but the car was untouched in the blaze. It was then given to a high school where it fell off a display and hurt a student. More accidents followed, and the legend of the curse grew until eventually the car disappeared. Weirdly though, despite the curse, many are looking to find it and claim it for themselves. And now for number 6. But first, be sure to subscribe to World List and give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more videos like this one. Number 6. King Casimir's Tomb. In 1973, the tomb of the late King Casimir was found, and a curse was born. How so? That's because 4 of the 12 people who uncovered the tomb were dead within days. More died in the years to come. Eventually, 15 people were killed because of the opening of this tomb. To be clear, the 15 were the ones who were there initially, or in the aftermath of the tomb opening. Thus were all exposed to the curse in one form or another, which upon further investigation proved that there was something in that tomb. Not just what you would expect. King Casimir had been embalmed after death, and the people charged with sealing the tomb did so very poorly. The seal on his coffin wasn't complete, and so weather was able to seep in by rain and cause decomposition to the extent that a deadly fungus called Aspergillus flavus was born in the tomb. So when the team opened the coffin, the fungus spread to them and they all started to die. So while not technically a curse, you could cite it as a warning, one that has happened in many tombs over the years as various diseases and fungi and more have claimed lives by those who weren't wearing proper protection. Number 5. Kennedy Curse. The Kennedy family has had a long-standing history of being in politics, and their most famous member, John F. Kennedy, was President of the United States. But after his assassination, it seemed that history, fate, or even a higher power was out to make sure that family suffered. The Kennedy curse had begun. First was Robert Kennedy, the brother of JFK. He was beloved, but also assassinated. Senator Ted Kennedy once drove his car off a bridge, killing a woman in the process. He also survived a plane crash. Both of Robert Kennedy's sons died, one of an overdose, the other in a skiing accident. John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife, and his wife's sister all died in a plane crash. And even Mary Kennedy, who was the wife of Robert Kennedy Jr., hanged herself. Many are unsure of how to label these deaths, other than the curse of power. But to happen to so many members in the same family, and many by various reasons and methods, that is a truly dreadful curse, and one that will be debated for many decades to come. Number 4. Curse of Tippy Canoe. The curse of Tippy Canoe was said to be one that was after presidents, and it all started with President William Harrison, who led the American forces against Native American leader Tecumseh of the titular Tippy Canoe. Since Harrison became president in 1840, every 20 years the president who was elected would be assassinated. Harrison was first. In 1860, Abe Lincoln was killed 5 years after election. 1880 and 1900 had 2 assassinations, James Garfield and William McKinley. Warren G. Harding and Franklin Delano Roosevelt both died when they were in the presidency. Then JFK died in 1960. The curse was finally broken in 1980 after Ronald Reagan was shot but not killed during an assassination attempt. Following that in 2000, George H.W. had nothing personal happen to him. Some might call this curse a coincidence, but that would be a very particularly timed coincidence. Number 3. Busby's stoop chair. In the late 17th century lived Daniel Awady, who eventually went into business with a man named Thomas Busby. 2 arguments, though, would change their lives forever. Awady was mad that Busby married his daughter, while Busby was mad that Awady sat in his favorite chair. Busby then killed Awady, and he was arrested and sentenced to hanging for his crime. Before he died, though, he swore that anyone who sat in that chair would be met with a violent death. Hearing this, the Busby Stoop Inn was opened, and the owner used the frame of the chair to make money off it. That was not a smart choice, as many people sat in that chair, and all of them died unusual and sudden deaths. According to legend, 63 people died just from sitting in that chair. The curse's legend grew to the extent that the chair was elevated off the ground so no one else could die from sitting upon it, thus ending the curse until it gets taken down. Number 2. Curse of the Pharaoh. There are few curses as legendary and infamous as the curse of the tomb of King Tutankhamun. It is said that the people who opened the tomb were slowly killed off one by one for opening the tomb after thousands of years of being preserved. Here's the thing, the curse was real in one aspect. During the decade after opening the tomb in 1923, 6 of the 23 people present died. Plus, not all of them were usual deaths. One was killed via mosquito, another via blood poisoning. Not the thing you would expect people to die from. The curse of the pharaoh was born, and naturally, people in media hyped it up until it was all but confirmed to be real. There are several problems with this belief, though. First and foremost, despite the Egyptians having a very robust history and legends of their gods, curses were never a part of their mythology or culture. Plus, like other tombs before it, it's just as likely that ancient pathogens were inside the tomb when sealed, grew with time, and infected those that entered it, which has happened with other tombs in the past. Finally, years after all the curse rumors had started, it was revealed that it was a hoax made up by one of the heads of the expedition team. Why? Well, they wanted to deter grave robbers, and a curse was a solid way to do just that. Their mission was successful, but the curse still lives on in the minds of many. Number 1, the Hope Diamond. Of the many cursed items in history, few are as widely believed as the Hope Diamond. So much so that people actually refuse to touch the diamond, as the legend and curse states that anyone who touches it will be led to ruin in one form or another. The diamond itself has been confirmed to have originated in a temple in India. A Hindu priest stole the gem and later died an agonizing death, thus starting the curse. The gem was found in the Golconda mines and made its way to Europe around 1642. There, it was bought by a French merchant, who would eventually sell it to King Louis XIV. That merchant was later mauled to death by dogs. King Louis and his wife Marie Antoinette were later beheaded, and the gem was stolen during that period, with more stories being told about how it kept changing hands and causing more pain. Eventually, it wound up in the hands of a man named Henry Thomas Hope, which is where the diamond finally got its name. More owners came after him, and just as many cursed tales followed. At this point, you might be wondering why the diamond still exists with all the cursed stories surrounding it. But in truth, the question is more of, is the curse even real? Because while these stories are haunting in their own right, and some can even be proven, that doesn't mean they died via the diamond. Plus, some think it could have been a tactic to drive up the price for buyers who would pay top dollar for a cursed object. But as with many good curse stories, it ends with the item being put out of reach. In this case, the Hope Diamond was donated to the Smithsonian in 1958, where it remains to this day in a glass case, making sure that no one can touch it, and thus no one else can be hurt by it. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these curses? Which of these curses do you find the most intriguing? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and we'll see you next time on the channel.